Good morning. So I promised you a both funny and enlightening show today. And again, we've been talking a lot about what happened on United Airlines to poor Dr. Dow last week and how things have changed. And they have changed a lot. If you saw my show yesterday, at the end of this show, for those on YouTube who did not see the live show I did yesterday, I will repeat some of that. But look. There is something going around. After everything happened with Dr. Dow and the public response, which was astronomical in his favor, well, there's a page on Facebook, and I urge you all to see it. I don't read verbatim from anything on this show because this show is my show. And I don't want to ever be accused of simply reading something to you that you can look up yourself and read at your leisure. But there is a page on Facebook called The Pilot's Wife's Life. And after all this stuff happened, the pilot's wife wrote a blog, basically, defending United Airlines. Her husband is a pilot. And basically what she said in her response was that Dr. Dow was a threat to her husband. Well, her husband wasn't the pilot, but to the pilot, the crew, and everyone on that flight. That's not how it looked to me. I don't think those passengers that were recording what happened to Dr. Dow looked afraid of Dr. Dow. They were afraid of what they were seeing. A fellow human being being beaten to a pulp because he wouldn't give up his paid seat to an airline employee. And that, my friends, is not a terrorist. But what the pilot's wife did, and I wrote her a comment. I'm not sure if she saw it. I don't care if she saw it. I read some of the comments people made to her letter defending the airline. Now, look, she's not going to shit where she eats. The airline industry pays her husband's salary. The airline industry feeds her children. And I'm sure she has gotten a few free seats on airplanes when she chooses to fly. I'm sure she doesn't have to pay full price or pay anything, and I'm sure she can find a seat anytime she chooses. Maybe that's not the case. If it is not the case, I apologize to her. But I do know airline employees and former airline employees who do have that perk, where they can basically call up an airline and say, hey, we want to go to Hawaii tomorrow, get us on a plane. And they get on a plane and they don't pay for it. Now, I don't know that they've ever bumped anyone. And they certainly won't be bumping anyone in the future, at least if they're flying United Airlines. More on that later. But what the pilot's wife did in her blog was, when you buy an airline ticket, right, there is fine print. And things are in fine print. I think we should really talk about fine print for a minute. Fine print is fine print for a reason. They don't want you to read it. Even with 20/20 vision, you need bifocals. Double bifocals, trifocals to read the fine print on drugs, on signed consent forms, there's always fine print, and it's fine for a purpose. It's not because they ran out of paper at the paper mill or ink on the printer. It's because they don't want you to read it. Because if you read it and you actually thought that everything in that fine print could happen to you, nobody would fly. Everybody would be driving, taking Ubers, the highways would be packed, they'd be taking trains and boats. Nobody would fly. But the pilot's wife did us all a favor. She actually blew that fine print up. Now, I hope she didn't type it, at least not the airline rights, the rights the airlines have. I hope she didn't physically type that. It would take me, and I'm a pretty fast typist, it would take me at least 3 or 4 days to type the airline rights. Now, the passenger rights, it would take me about 5 minutes because we have this many rights. The airline has this many rights. There are so many reasons that an airline, that once you walk into an airport, you can be refused passage on an airplane. That you have a better chance of surviving open heart surgery than you do having a stress-free, problem-free, smooth flight to wherever you're going. I'm serious. So I thought I would do some props today since it is supposed to be a little bit of Fun Day Monday, as Kathy Lee and Hoda say. I had a glass of wine, so I'm in a good mood. I'm ready to do some comedy. So let's talk about why the airlines can refuse you safe passage on one of their planes. Well, they may not like the way you're dressed. If they don't think you are dressed appropriately, and this is a subjective thing, they don't tell you what you cannot do. They just say, if you're not dressed right, we don't have to an airline employee can go, oh girl, plaids and stripes, oh no, you ain't getting on my plane. Now, it's probably not that bad, but I thought I would show you, because of the heightened security levels in our airports since 9/11, how I dress to go to the airport. So here I am, and I'm going to get up, and here I am, and Savvy, you're going to have to move, baby. Here I am, dressed to go through security at the airport. Okay? I'm going to put the Sharpie down. So, I go through security. I'm taking off the jacket because they need to see that I don't have a bomb or anything strapped to me. Put the jacket, that goes through the x-ray machine. Here I am. Now, am I a terrorist? Here's what I do have. It's called a belly ring. And it's titanium. So when I go through the x-ray machine, it might beep. But look at me. Look at me. I'm good. See? No bombs. Nothing under my seats. Nothing. Just my piercings. That's all I got. I know. Savvy's getting upset. Okay. So, I go through security, right? I make it without getting their free mammogram, their free pap smear, the free colonoscopy, the pat down by strangers touching me in places only my husband has a right to. So I get through security. And I'm going to put my jacket back on because I'm a kind of a modest chick. I haven't had that much to drink at security. I drink after I go through security just to have the nerves to get on the damn plane. So, okay, now I go to the ticket desk, right? Well, my belly's showing. Well, they may not like that. Now, look, this outfit right here is the perfect outfit for the beach, for the boardwalk, for wherever I'm going, because I always go somewhere where there's a beach, right? So it's a perfect outfit. I am not exposing my breasts. I'm not exposing the downstairs girl. I'm not exposing anything. And I have a nice jacket that I can do this to. They can refuse to let me on the plane because I am showing my tummy. And it's a pretty tummy. It's not hurting anybody. But they can refuse to let me on the plane for that. Okay, let's talk about shoes. These are the shoes I would wear to the airport. Now, I wear these shoes because we all know, because some dumbass terrorist tried to put a bomb in a shoe. Now we all have to take our shoes off. Even us innocent, law-abiding citizens, American citizens, we got to take our shoes off to get on a plane. Well, guess what? I don't like untying things and getting basically undressed and redressed as I'm going through security. It wastes time. So I wear these. Guess what? Some airlines say no flip-flops on the plane. I'm going to freaking Jamaica, dude. That's all I'm going to be wearing. You're not allowed to wear flip-flops on the plane. Don't know why. I think it's very actually self-sufficient because I just want to get through security as quickly as I can without holding anybody up behind me and not having to basically disrobe. And hopefully not going into that little room with that stranger. Like the stranger who actually a few weeks ago, when a child, a teenager's mother, told the security people, my son does not like to be touched. He's got a disease that makes touch very traumatic for him. But his laptop set off an alarm, so they took him into a private room and they patted him down for 30 minutes. Well, actually, the airline says 2 minutes, but they missed their flight. Why didn't they pat down his laptop? The woman told them, my son has a medical condition. He's not wearing a bomb. He's not a terrorist, but they patted him down, and she recorded it, which is even better. They touched this young boy in his groin, in his butt, all over. And this is a boy who has a medical condition that states by a doctor that he gets very traumatized if anybody, even his own parents, touch him. He's sensitive to touch. And here was a stranger touching him in places where nobody should touch your child. Nobody. Except yourself, the parents or grandparents. They did it anyway because they could. And these people missed their flight. Just because he had a laptop and the laptop blew a whistle, well, then mess with the laptop. Don't mess with this kid. But they did it. And you know why? Because it's in the rights, the airline rights. They're allowed to do that. They are allowed to fuck you up so bad that you miss your flight. Because your laptop sets off a whistle. Seriously? Seriously. That's one of their rights. Okay, here's the other problem. And this is something I thought about when I thought of Dr. Dow. Is okay, so he was forced off the plane. If he had checked luggage, checked baggage, guess where his luggage, guess where all his clothes were? They were on the plane. And I thought to myself, well, damn, I save up all my money. I plan a vacation a year in advance. I get to the airport. I get through security. I get to the ticket gate. And lo and behold, my luggage is on the plane. I'm being bumped. Guess what I get to do? I get to wave goodbye to my luggage because my luggage is on its way to Jamaica and I'm still at the airport because I got bumped because an airline employee wanted my seat. Bye, luggage. Bye, Samsonite. I hope you enjoy Jamaica. I won't be there. Nice, huh? See, I usually don't check luggage, and I don't check luggage because I know a lot of people who have had things stolen from their luggage when they check them, and I've actually had a friend many years ago who was an avid skier who went to Colorado, and actually they lost his skis. Now, you go to Colorado, right, Breckenridge, you want to go skiing, and you have your own skis for a reason. Because Breckenridge skiing is a lot different from Round Top. If you're familiar with Lancaster, you know Round Top. It's a big difference. They lost his skis, and by the way, not only did they lose them, they never found them. So he had to rent skis on his long-planned for, long-awaited ski vacation to Breckenridge to ski in hard powder and hard conditions. He had to rent skis for a week. Oh, the airline gave him money back. But if you own skis, if you're a skier, you know that having to go and buy new skis, it's a pain in the ass. And if you are an avid skier and you're trying to buy new skis in the winter, you know there is a waiting period because they have to measure and your skis are made for you. So the airline losing this man's skis was a big deal. It was a big deal. It kind of screwed up his whole winter. And it definitely screwed up his long-awaited skiing vacation. So I don't check luggage. Okay. Here's the problem because of good old terrorists and 9/11 and we got to be safe, right? This is the size that I can take on a carry-on bag of suntan lotion for a 10-day vacation. This is also the size of hair gel that I can take. And the hair gel is more important. I'm not a big sunscreen person. I'm a tanner. You know, you give me some cooking oil, I'll put it on my body. That's my sunscreen. But this is the size of hair gel I can take on my carry-on. Seriously? Have you seen my hair? This isn't even going to cover one day my whole head. I'm a gel girl. You've seen my hair really curly. It's gel, and it's a lot more than this. But I can't carry anything bigger than this onto the plane. Now, maybe I could take like 6 of these with just hair gel in them, but then I don't have any toothpaste, I don't have any suntan lotion, I don't have anything else. And then you have to get to where you're going and buy them at the hotel store. Well, you know, a tube of toothpaste at the hotel store is like $30. It's like $5 at the CVS down the street. But you can't take it on the plane, and you can't trust them with your luggage. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But yeah, it is interesting to me that poor Dr. Dow's luggage got to Louisville before he did, because of course he had to make that side trip to the hospital. And now he's going to need surgery, which we'll talk about later because I talked about that yesterday. So, this is the other problem. This is the other reason they can refuse you entry onto your flight that you paid for, is if they believe you're intoxicated. Now, tomorrow's show is going to talk about intoxication and under the influence, and we're going to define that because it's changed and you're going to need to see that. But if they think you're drunk, well, you know what? Who the hell would ever get on a plane sober in our country anymore? Here's the problem. When you walk into any airport, probably in the world, but especially in America, you are no longer an American citizen. You no longer have civil rights. You no longer have rights at all. And we talked about control freak, and everybody said, why are you calling them control freaks? I'm a control freak. And when I walk into an airport, the second I go through those doors, I am now under the complete control of airline employees and government employees through TSA. I have no rights. I have no rights to expect my right against illegal search and seizure. They can take my phone. They can request my password. They can look at my contacts. They can look at my bank accounts. They can scroll through my contacts, who I talk to. They can look at my pictures, my private pictures, if they choose to. They can refuse to let me on the plane because they don't like my clothing. They don't like my clothing decisions for the day. Maybe I'm wearing white after Memorial Day, but they can refuse without any explanation. They can force me into a room and basically give me a physical exam only an OBGYN has a right to do. I only hope that they share the results with my OBGYN. It'll save me a trip and a bill, since I'm uninsured now and all. They can do things to you at an airport that a police officer is not allowed to do when they stop you for a traffic violation. In an airport, you have no rights. You have no rights at all. You don't even have the right not to be beaten to a pulp if you disagree with them. Let me tell you who's working at these airports. And I know this, and somebody might get mad at me for saying this, but unfortunately, for some reason, people who are married to either airline employees or airline pilots, and the airline employees and pilots themselves are a cocky bunch. They're arrogant. They're actually like little Donald Trump Juniors. They may even be worse, because they actually have more control over you than Donald Trump does right now. And when I hear families of people who are like, especially pilots, oh, I'm married to a captain. They walk with their heads a little higher and their nose up here. I'm married to a captain. He's a pilot. And look, I respect pilots. I'm married to a decorated sergeant and a sharpshooting award winner who was a Marine. I'm really proud of that. But I don't walk around making other people feel less than because I'm married to a decorated Marine who served his country valiantly for 8 years and even drove the Admiral around. That is a prestigious job. My husband drove the Admiral in San Diego. Admiral of the Marine Corps. Big job, big responsibility. My husband was chosen. But you don't see me bumping people off planes and saying how special I am because my husband was a Marine. But some of these people do. And let me tell you something else about airline employees. Think of the power. Do you think that all the flight attendants on your plane don't know their rights compared to your rights? Oh, they know. So think about an airline employee, a flight attendant, even a pilot, a ticket booth person, a TSA agent. They had a fight with their wife before they came to work. They had a fight with their husband. They hit traffic. They got stuck in traffic. They're having a bad day. Guess what? Your day just got a lot worse. Watch out. Because they're in a bad mood. And when they're in a bad mood, you have a bad day. They're customers. They will take it out on you. You know, they can't be texting the husband, and by the way, I want the last word, so they're going to do something evil to you because they're pissed off. It won't be have a pleasant flight. It'll be go fuck yourself. I don't like what you're wearing. Go change your clothes or you're not getting on my plane. Put some shoes on. Have some respect for the airline. I think you've had a cocktail. You're damn right I've had a cocktail. Flying is stressful. I had a cocktail before I got here, and I'm going to have a cocktail the minute I get on that damn plane and they start serving. Hopefully I'll go to sleep and forget that I was even on your plane. And let me tell you something about what happens when an airline flight attendant has a bad day. This came to me yesterday when I was talking to a friend of mine. Many years ago, she traveled for business quite frequently, and she was on a plane. Not going to name the airline. And she was in her seat. And because the planes overbook, as we know they overbook, she was sitting in her seat, and this woman came up and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, you're in my seat." And my friend said, "No, I don't think so." They looked at each other's boarding tickets, and lo and behold, they were both sold the same seat on the same plane. And the woman looked at my friend and said, "Oh, geez, my daughter is really sick. I need to get home tonight to see my sick daughter." And my friend said, "Look, I'm traveling for business. I don't have to be anywhere until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. If they will give me the next flight out tonight, I'm just going to be sitting in a hotel room when I get where I'm going anyway. You can have my seat." The flight attendant comes up and says, "What's going on?" And my friend started to explain. She said, "Ma'am, you need to shut up. This is none of your business." My friend said, "Now you just wait," and this is a quote, "wait a goddamn minute." What do you mean this is none of my business? You sold the same seat to two different passengers. I'm trying to do the right thing here and give my seat up if you can guarantee me the next flight out this evening so I can make my business meeting tomorrow. And the passengers around her started saying, "This woman," this was before cell phones. I wish it had been recorded. "This woman's trying to be nice. Why are you yelling at her?" "I'm calling a supervisor," was the flight attendant's response. So a supervisor comes out and they explain the situation to the supervisor. And the supervisor says, "Well, what's the problem?" And another passenger said, "Your employee was very rude to this woman who was trying to voluntarily give up a seat you sold twice so this woman can get home to her daughter. All this woman wants, she doesn't want money. She doesn't want anything free. She just wants a ticket on the next flight." And the supervisor said, "That's fine with me." And the whole plane applauded. How dare that flight attendant speak that way to someone who was trying to do a kindness for a fellow human being? Yes, she was having a bad day. Maybe she had a fight with her husband that morning. Maybe she got stuck in traffic or got reprimanded by the boss for being rude. This is what they can do to you, though. Because once you go through those airport doors, you are no longer under the protection of the Constitution of the United States. You are on airline rules. And it will pay you to get out your bifocals or your trifocals or your magnifying glasses or take pictures of the small print and blow it up on your Kindle or your phone and really read them before you get on a plane. As I said at the beginning of this show, you have a better chance of surviving open heart surgery than you do of having a casualty-free airline experience. Something is going to go wrong. And they have every right to ruin your vacation. They have every right to ruin your life. They have every right to touch you in places where you should not be being touched by a stranger unless you request it, unless you want to be touched there. They have a right to look in your phone. They have a right to confiscate your computer. And they have a right to tell you you can't wear these shoes on a plane. And you can't walk through security like this to save them time so they don't have to worry that you've got a bomb strapped to you. The minute you walk into that airport, you are considered a possible terrorist. You are considered a security risk. You are considered a criminal without ever doing anything wrong except buying a ticket, packing a bag, and walking through those doors. And believe you me, once you walk through those doors, you are no longer truly on American soil. You are on airline soil. And just like when you travel to different countries and the American embassy says, you know, if you go there, we can't protect you. Once you go into an airport, you better have lawyers on speed dial. And you better learn how to say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And of course, you can feel my breasts and feel my ass up. Because if you don't, you could end up being the next Dr. Dow. And I guarantee you this, if you don't say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and no, sir, to these people, you're not going on vacation, you're not going to your business meeting, you're not going to your job interview, you are not getting on one of their planes. Just the way it is. But now, if you did not see my live show yesterday, very quickly for my YouTube followers, things have changed. United Airlines now will not bump anyone once they are in their seat. If you get on that plane, if you're lucky enough to get through the TSA and the strip search and the feeling up of the boobies and all that good stuff, you get on that plane and you sit down, that's it. They cannot remove you from that plane for any reason unless it's being evacuated for a fire or mechanical difficulties or whatever. That's your seat. Nobody can take it from you. And Delta has now raised the incentive for getting off of a plane to $10,000. $10,000. Wonder if you have to pay taxes on that. I bet you do. So I'm sorry, $9,650 after taxes. That's a good incentive to get off of a plane. That's a good incentive to just say, oh, I'm just going to book a flight. I'm not really going anywhere. I don't even have a hotel room. I don't need luggage. But I'll get bumped. I'll go. I don't need to be anywhere that bad. I'll take the $9,675 after taxes. That's going to look good in my bank account. That's going to look good in my IRA. That's going to look great for remodeling my beach house at the bay. That's cool. But here's something else to think about, all you airline people. Here's something to think about. Would it be, because doctors' offices do this, doctors' offices actually sometimes, and you'll notice this, if you call a dentist, for example, and you have an emergency, oh, I broke a tooth or I broke a filling, come in at 10. It's always 10, or it's 10:15, or it's 10:30. Why? Because what doctors and dentists do is they take 1 hour a day and they black it out. They don't schedule appointments. Or if they do, they're small appointments. They keep that timeline open for emergencies. When you do the stats, and I'm not a smart person. If I were, I would own an airline. But do the stats. How many people are you bumping a month? And how many incentives are you paying out a month? And how much does it really cost to fly a plane with maybe 2 or 3 empty seats in it from one location to another? Will it bankrupt you like the pilot's wife says it will? That they must overbook or they'll go bankrupt? I don't know about that. Because if you're paying now, like Delta is, $10,000 to everybody who's bumped, what does having a couple empty seats not booked, just in case someone, God forbid, somebody dies, and they say, I need to get on this plane to get to somebody, they're dying, they're in the hospital, like my sister did a few years ago when my mother was dying. I called her, I said, you need to get here, and she got a plane, thank God, and she was able to see my mom before she died. Why would it be so out of the realm of possibility to just leave maybe 2 seats or 3 seats or even 4 seats empty? I know I've flown on an empty plane. I've flown Air Jamaica. And thankfully, they did have an empty seat because I was sitting with my husband and there was a very unruly child jumping up and down on the seat and I couldn't stand it. And I was able to move to the back of the plane and get an empty seat because there were empty seats. And Air Jamaica is still in business. We had a lovely flight, on time, very courteous flight attendants, courteous at the gate. Everybody was lovely on Air Jamaica. That's why I like Air Jamaica. That's why I like to go to Jamaica, because I can fly Air Jamaica. I don't have to fly United or Delta or one of these American airline companies. I know, put your thumbs away. I'm sure Air Jamaica is owned by some American company. I don't care. They're nice. They're nicer than any other airline I've ever flown. Although Southwest is pretty nice too. As far as my experience with Southwest has always been excellent as well. So anyway. But there are empty seats, and I don't see the reason why you can't, like, leave a couple seats open for an employee. If, God forbid, there's someone calls in sick down in Louisville, and a Chicago employee's like, I can take the Louisville flight, but I need to get there. Great, we left a seat for you. Welcome aboard. And nobody gets beaten up. Nobody needs to get sued. Nobody needs now plastic surgery, reconstructive surgery, as poor Dr. Dow will need. I don't know why that's not possible. Maybe somebody that sees this show will explain to me why it's not possible. To just leave a couple seats open in case shit happens. Because shit always happens. Instead of beating up a paying customer or getting yourself sued out your ass, which United Airlines is going to be facing a very serious lawsuit. Not to mention all of Dr. Dow's medical bills, which they will be paying for. And probably their customers will now be paying for, because you will probably see the cost of a United Airlines plane ticket go up. They'll probably call it the Dr. Dow tax. But thank you, Dr. Dow. This show continues to stand with you. And I do also want to say congratulations to the pilot's wife as well. She took a lot of courage to write that, and just as I would, she defended the company her husband works for, and I would do the same thing. And you did give us food for thought, like the fact that those employees needed to get to Louisville because they were going to work, not on vacation. We didn't know that in the couple minute sound bites we heard on the news. And that's important to know, to a point. But it still does not excuse the behavior of the airport security. And to make no mistake, those were not Chicago police officers. Those were security, airport security. So they did not necessarily work for United, but they did work for the airport. So people were saying, well, it's not United's fault what the security did. Well, yeah, it kind of is. Because they basically said, you get this man off this plane any way you can. And I want to reiterate that Dr. Dow posed no threat to the crew, to the passengers, to anyone on that airline. And yes, he did go back through security. He broke away and he went back on the plane. But at that point, he was suffering from a severe head trauma. And you could tell he was dazed. And he just saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. I need to go home. He wasn't in his right mind. And again, he had no weapons, no bombs. He was not a terrorist. He was not a threat to anyone on that plane. The only threat to anyone on that plane was the security guards who came onto that plane and beat the shit out of him. They threatened everyone on that plane. And thank God for cell phones. Thank you, all you wonderful Good Samaritans who pulled out your cell phones and started and hit record. You have all contributed to hopefully making air travel just a little bit easier for the rest of us, especially those of us who don't travel often and who plan sometimes a year or two in advance for that special trip. And then the minute we walk into the airport, it could all go to hell. Just because someone's having a bad day, or I'm not dressed appropriately, or my shoes aren't appropriate, or whatever. Or I need more hair gel than this to make this look good in Jamaica. That's my show for today. I hope I made you smile a little, laugh a little, but also think a little. Tomorrow's show is a big thinking show. You're going to learn a lot. Things I didn't even know that I learned this weekend. So, for today, I hope you all had a great weekend. And it's a new week at Political Paula. So, for now, Political Paula is out. And never forget, thank you, Dr. Dow. Political Paula out.